It's time to start building the rest of the natural environment around the map that we've built so far. I'm going to lay out the rocks, and then once I've got that arena laid out, I'm going to focus on doing this interior section and completing it. But first off, let's get the rocks in. So I'm going to go to Env Planes Organic, Static Mesh, and you can see we have a couple of rock meshes that we can kind of play with here. I think Plains Large Rock is going to be a good first starting point. Now, this is 2000 tries, so it's not too bad on performance, but you still don't want to go too crazy with it. I'm going to bump the size of this up to be a uniform 4 scaling, and I'm just going to place it snugly along this pillar here. Now this is just going to be a first pass, so I don't expect anything that we do here to be final, but I'm going to place this on either side. I'm going to go into unlit mode with Alt 3. And I'm just going to get this to somewhere that's going to be a little bit nicer. Might even give this a slight incline. It's going to look a little unbalanced initially, but if I just keep bringing these around, essentially we're going to create kind of a cliff face wall. And this is going to look a bit unusual until we get the rest of this in to kind of balance it out. Especially the lighting. Once the lighting is fixed up, this should come together nicely. So I'm going to drag this in, bring it over to here, which stops that from looking like it was at a strange angle. But I can still put that there, yep. And I'm just going to go through really quickly and do some larger block versions. So I'm going to switch this over from 4x4 to 8x8, and I'm just going to... It's a good time here, I think, to look at it this way. I'm going to hit Control 1, and now whenever I hit 1, I can go back to it. I'm going to look this way, Control 2. I'm going to put the camera potentially about here, which is the menu glory shot that we'll have. So Control 3. And I'm also going to do one looking back on the map, Control 4. And finally, up top looking down, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fantastic. So I'm going to use this to kind of make sure that my shots all look pretty good and that they're all set up nicely. This is going to be here. I'm just going to quickly build a rock wall around the outskirts that's going to be in front of the hills and such that we have in place. It's a good idea as well to do things like over here. If I deliberately push this back, I can make it look like there's a pathway that's exiting out to elsewhere in the map that we just can't reach. Kind of imply that there's more to the world than there really is. So I'm going to bring that to here, kind of encourage that look. Now these will all get redone and tweaked and everything else once I've got my basic environment down. Cool. I just wanted to get a rough idea of how this was going to look when these were in there. And we're all set up nicely. Might even be a good idea for me to kind of pull this section here back all the way up to here. Kind of again imply something. If we had time, I'd probably dedicate that to kind of building some nice visuals over there as well, like a lake or something. It's going to be there. And I'll need to level off this backing area eventually, but for the time being it's okay. And now let's get a couple of these to kind of drop here. a few of these are going to sit even further back. It's going to look a bit unusual until we get the lighting together, but that's okay. I'll leave that to yourself to sort out how you want it to look. But now that we've got that in, let's just quickly finish off the rest of the meshing around the outsides, and then we'll finalize it with the lighting and post-processing. So we've got our full outdoor environment done. For the meshing around the outsides, I think it'd be really nice to kind of get some key elements that are identifiable as being certain areas of the map. So I'm going to have like a round tower at this location as my first addition. So that's going to be located in my ruins directory, static mesh. And you'll notice we've got a couple of assets we could potentially use here, but the one I'm going to go with is this here. We have ruin 1 and ruin 2. I'm going to try ruin 1 and see how it looks. I'm also going to scale it up because it's quite small. So bump it up to 2 times and then bring it down to the ground. Now that looks okay from here, but if I was to actually be using this mesh, I wouldn't be able to actually do anything if I was looking down, because it would look horrible. That's okay though, we've got a couple of ways that we can get around that. The easiest way is going to literally just to be filling it up with something. So if I look through my available options, I'm just going to fill it up with the insides of a broken column. So I'm going to alt drag that upwards and then swap it with this mesh. Again, curse of the pivot points. Times like this, it's a good idea to actually do this from the top down. Hit F to find it, and I can just kind of size this up. Even if this has a couple of little gaps, players won't notice that. So put that in there. And if they see that, they'll just see that rubble there, which makes it look a lot nicer. So we've got that in place. Now I'm going to go through and get these busted broken walls and drag them out to the outskirts here as well. It'd be a good idea to consider having the broken wall on top as a layer again with this here. It's up to you how you want to proceed. I don't mind just doing this for the time being and seeing how it looks, but if you do want more detail, don't be afraid to go through and add layers to the walling that we're putting in at the moment. So I'm going to put this to here. I'm actually going to scale this up to be, say, 2 times. And I'm going to drop that to about there so that I know that I'm definitely covering up that area there. And now I'm just going to go through, and as before, make sure we've got something set up. And I'm going to here, transform, mirror X. And at the ends, I'm going to hide up everything that we've got with some sort of pillar, so I'm not too concerned. Might be a good idea for me to move this to here, if anything, and extend this out just a little bit further. Oops. So that's a 2.5. And a bit of a gap there, so 2.38. It's good enough for the minute. I'm just going to go through and add some extra brick in there so we've got something that works. So 90-degree rotation. And I don't mind if this actually goes down to the ground, covers nicely. I'm going to rotate you around 180. Same mesh, different direction. Fantastic. So that's that wall. And if I really wanted to flesh this out, I could do what I've done before. Kind of use a couple of pieces of this as kind of reinforcements that were put in at some stage, which I think looks nice. Could be a bit too much with it on both sides, but we can get away with this by rotating it 180 and then putting it there. Looks okay. So we've got some basic stuff there, and I'm going to do the same as I just did along this wall here. So again, Alt drag. And I'm just going to head down the wall, doing what I've been doing. Yep. Great. Oops, I missed one. So I've just alt dragged that across. We've got a basic wall now running down there. Interiors are sorted out. Just got a really basic environment kind of set up here. It'd be nice for us to kind of, again, add little bits of reinforcement. I don't want to overdo it though, to be honest. So let's get a couple of these, but not too many. Just at certain chunks. And if I go find in browser, there were a couple of variations of here that we could potentially use. So I'll try those out. Alt drag. Swap with that. So that's a smaller piece. I could have that all the way up to here, which goes over the top nicely. Cool. Great. So now that we've done that, we've got the brunt of our meshing done. There's a lot I could do, but in the next video I'll kind of run through some of the smaller things that I've done and how I got the look that I got. I'll then be focusing on lighting and post-processing. So afterwards you'll be able to get a better idea of what's going on and how I've done it. So let's move on to the next step.